Welcome back, y'all, and happy Thursday. We have a few things to talk about today. Number one, our basketball team has a very good guard from overseas. I love his game, so we're going to break that down, talk about his role on our team, and we're also going to talk about what Tennessee should target with our final roster spot. We're going to update you on Tennessee's football team in this transfer portal, and we haven't had a whole lot of movement in this spring window. I think that there is some more movement coming. We're hosting a couple more players. We're going to break down these guys' game, and we'll talk about Tennessee's roster. Also, I want to talk some more about general manager. It's something that we've talked about a lot on this channel, but I'm doing it because I think Tennessee really does need to add one. Listening to Coach Heupel and Danny White talk about it, it sounds like they're open to the thought, but they need to pull the trigger on that, I think, sooner rather than later. So I'll show you how things will look if I was the general manager and really how the role should look for Tennessee. We're going to get into how we're going to be allocating funds and all that. Hopefully that's going to be fun for y'all. And as always, please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. That's a great way to keep us growing. Really helps out with this YouTube algorithm. But you can take it one step further by joining this channel and being a member. You can do so by clicking on the join button just below this video. You will get a lot more film breakdowns that we do for the members only. And you can also donate as little as $1 to our Cash App by scanning that Cash App QR code wherever you see it on the screen. If you can't find it or if you can't scan it, whatever, then our Cash App is $Bluechip Breakdown with no spaces or anything like that. It's spelled just the way that you see it on this channel. And listen, we're grateful for everything that you're doing. If we could get every person that is sub to this channel just to donate $1 a month to our Cash App, P and I could do this thing full time. We're not full time yet. We're still grinding. We will always grind, but that's our goal. That's what we're trying to get to. So you can help us out by, obviously, again, like we just said, like and subscribe to the channel and donating or being a member. But with all those things being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, y'all, we're going to start with Clarence Massamba. He's the guard that's coming from overseas. He played high school ball at IMG up to his junior year. Then he goes to play some pro ball over in France. Listed at 6'5", about 195 pounds. The first thing that stands out to me is that's good size if you want to play, college ball in the States, but also his length is better than his height. So at 6'5", I think that he's got like the wingspan of probably a guy that's 6'7", 6'8". That's going to be very, very beneficial. But whenever he did go and play pro ball, he's mostly playing in the under 21 league. So, that's basically like playing college ball overseas, just as far as the age of the players that he's playing up against. And you can see his numbers here that it doesn't absolutely wow you. But looking at his game, looking at his film, I think that he's a guy that's a great athlete. So you talk about the size, you talk about that length, and then you say, man, this guy can run, he can jump, he can do all those things. So his defense should be tremendous with Coach Barnes. That's the number one thing that stands out to me personally. That's going to be big for us. You need guys that can lock down some of these taller players. Like we always talk about a Cooper Flag or guys that are, a little bit taller, that have got some really good game. I think that even though he's at 6'5", I think that his length would help him to guard some of these taller guys. He's going to be able to disrupt passing lanes and get some steals and all that good stuff. But looking at his highlight film, you're seeing mostly dunks. So, yes, he can jump. He can get up off the ground very, very quickly. I think that we're going to see a lot more of, our guys being able to drive to the basket, something that we missed out on last season. But, we saw more of it, like towards the end of the year, more towards that tournament. But we need guys who can definitely slash, who can, get us on those backdoor cuts and things like that. He's going to be huge as far as the fast break points go and all of that. But, his shooting, you're not seeing a whole bunch of that, which leads me to think that he's probably not the best, pure shooter. I think that he was shooting about 34% from three, in that France league. So that's still pretty good. Obviously, his shot's something that I feel like he's going to have to work on. If he can get that better, then man, this is an absolute steal. I don't know what we got him for, but he's not a name that we heard too much about. So yeah, I think that he could really add a lot to this team. I'm looking forward to, just talking about how he matches up with, some of the other players that we have on this roster. But yeah, I mean, he's a tremendous athlete. I think, we're looking at pretty much defense first here, but he can still get to the basket like we talked about. I think his mid-range looks pretty good. And really, I think that his shooting form, to me, it looks consistent, but this is just highlights. So, I like the form there, right? Like he keeps the ball really high up over his head and things like that. He doesn't have like a funky shoot motion. So, as he's working on his game more, I think everything would and should translate for us coming up in 2025. All right, and looking at Tennessee's roster, you can see where Clarence is at. I don't know if he's going to come in as a freshman or not because technically he hasn't played any college basketball just yet, but I'm not sure. He might come in with a couple of years taken away because he did play some pro ball overseas. Those rules are real funky. Either way, I think that he could fit in as a guy that's coming off of the bench and give us just like a little bit of extra pop, just some extra depth. We should be able to hold on to him for a couple more seasons. He doesn't have any rankings with any of the sites that I could find. But I think that he's going to be a guy that, like we talked about, kind of like a defense first guy. If his offense steps up, especially with his shooting, that would be great. But mostly, I think he's a guy that's going to have to drive to the paint, and that's a good thing, right? Like, because I think that he's got some good handles. I think that he could take people off of the bounce. So I mean, that's never a negative thing. We already talked about his length, talked about his size. So I feel good about this roster, really from top to bottom. We've got to add one more player for me. If we can't, add Jordan Gainey, that would be perfect. If we could do that, this roster is just absolutely filthy. But if we can't add a guy that's similar to a Jordan Gainey that can shoot, that can drive, and do all that, we need to get just a knockdown shooter. I'm talking about a guy that's 40 something plus percent from three, because we still have to find that spacing. Now, we've got some guys that can shoot. I wouldn't say that we've got anybody that's just a straight up knockdown shooter. So that's something that I feel like Tennessee needs to add. The front court, we've talked about that. That said, that's solid. Obviously you want to stay healthy, but adding these guards, that you can see how the roster is really starting to take shape. Several players that are going to be able to, fill different roles. I mean, looking at guys like Carey, looking at Phillips, I'm going to anticipate that that's the guys that can be like bullies. You need some guys kind of like a Draymond Green, right? That's just a straight up bully, just a straight up dog. You need that physicality. I think that we're good just as far as the four. I wouldn't mind adding a guy that could be kind of like a stretch four, because maybe JP could do that for us. But looking at Nate, he's a guy that in certain situations, if we want to start to play smaller, he could be that stretch four for us. So, we've got a few guys there that could definitely do it, that could kind of fill that role for us. But I wouldn't say that we right now, just as far as I'm looking at, I don't think we've got a true stretch four. But that's deadly. Like, it's something I feel like every team needs, especially if you're talking about making a championship push. But just looking at this roster, we've got guards that can do several different things. They can drive to the basket. They've got good handles. They're all going to play really good defense, and they can shoot, I would say, relatively well. So this roster is, for me, very, very balanced. I'm looking forward to it. I know I've said that several times now, but we talked about it after this previous season just ended. How's the roster going to look? How's the team going to look? Can we bounce back? In some ways, I could say, man, this roster might have a higher ceiling than we've had for a long time with Coach Barnes, maybe since Coach Barnes has ever had, just because we have so many guys that are versatile and that look like ballers. Everything really starts with Nate. If Nate, if he, is that guy that ends up being one and done, if he's a top 5 draft pick, then yeah, I mean, pretty much we're talking about role players in all these different spots. And I think that we've got some guys that are really more than role players. So that's how I see it, but I would love to hear y'all's thoughts about it down in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, because that keeps us growing inside of the YouTube algorithm. And if you did like this video, here's another one that you might also enjoy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.